It's been amazing to watch this divestment campaign grow. It's just over a year old. We launched this fossil fuel divestment push in the United States last November, the day after the political election, to really try and make a point that it was time to stop just asking our leaders for change and really start pushing and taking on the industry that has been blocking progress, not only in the U.S., but of course around the world and here at these talks. Why divestment? As they said in the video, our point is primarily a moral one, that if it's wrong to wreck the planet, then it's also wrong to profit from that wreckage. That's an argument that we're making not only to universities, whose mission is to educate students for a future, but also at places like churches, which have a moral responsibility to take action, our cities that aren't investment banks, but are institutions that are supposed to be providing for their citizens. It's an argument that we're making to individuals as well, that each of us has a role in beginning to move our own finances if we have them in different directions. The divestment argument has been really interesting, though, because it has also become a financial one. And a lot of the work that Mark and others have done to warn about the carbon bubble, to warn about the risks of staying invested in fossil fuels, has continued to strengthen the case that we're able to make to city pension funds, to boards of trustees, to people that manage endowments for universities as well. As they said in the video, the campaign has spread much faster than we ever would have expected. We weren't exactly sure if it would work. I mean, divestment is sort of a wonky, economically focused thing. We thought maybe students wouldn't want to get involved in it. It's been the exact opposite. I think that people realize that in order to actually get after the climate crisis, we need to begin to start following the money. Students realize that where power lies in our political system, that these corporations have tremendous influence, and that as individuals, they aren't going to be able to make the type of changes they want to see in their communities unless they begin to actually systematically challenge the people standing in the way. So divestment has taken off. As they said in the video, it's running campaigns at over 380 or so now colleges and universities across the United States. The campaign has quickly spread around the world. We now have campaigns running in Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We just got finished a couple weeks ago. Hoda and I were on a bus traveling around Europe for a week, kicking off the campaign across Europe, visiting Berlin, Amsterdam, Edinburgh, Birmingham, London, huge events, hundreds of people each night, students, churchgoers, others who want to get involved in this campaign. The campaign is also taking off in places we wouldn't expect. Campaign at Hong Kong University, other places where people are saying, we have money that we can begin to move. We have an institution that needs to take a stand. This thing has been really interesting to watch, and I think it will only spread as we move forward. As they said in the video, it will also intensify. We've begun to come up against some of the power structures at some of our largest institutions. Harvard University was one of the first places where we launched a campaign. They have a $32 billion endowment. Harvard decided that they did not want to divest from fossil fuels because they thought that it wouldn't make a political impact and that we needed to, help keep burning coal in order to support development around the world. Students have begun to push back on that, both in terms of the arguments that they're making, bringing in experts on the campus, making a financial case, but also taking escalated action. We've studied our history books. This campaign is in many ways modeled on the fight against apartheid in South Africa, the divestment campaign that helped support that struggle. It took 10 years to convince institutions to do the right thing on apartheid. They listed all the same reasons that they're listing now about not wanting to divest. But it took real sustained pressure, and people brought that to bear, and some of our largest universities and cities and pension funds in the U.S. eventually did the right thing. I believe in the end, 155 universities and colleges divested from companies doing business in South Africa. And when Nelson Mandela was freed from prison, and the first visit he made to the United States wasn't to the White House, it was to the University of California in Berkeley to thank students and faculty and staff there for helping push the entire California system to divest from South Africa. We're targeting that same system now. They have $74 billion under management, and a lot of that is tied up in the companies that are causing this problem. So how does divestment play out as a strategy? And why do we think it will start working even more? First, as I mentioned, it was a moral strategy. We want to intensify the debate around climate change and really put people on the spot to begin to have to make tough choices. It also it hasn't gone past us by that some of the most important influencers in our society sit on these boards of trustees and and institutions. So for instance, at Brown University, where a divestment campaign is underway on coal, the CEO of Bank of America is the board president there. So when students are protesting at Brown, they're also getting that message directly to the head of one of our largest banks. That's a big push that we need to keep making. Divestment is also a political strategy. We're building a base of people that are fired up to take on this industry and who can bring that pressure to bear in elections. We're at Ohio State University. We're at all the places in the U.S. where we need to be to really build up a movement of students and people off campus who can begin to make an effect in elections. And that's the same approach that we're taking in places like the UK, Germany, Amsterdam, elsewhere where we really want to be making an impact. Finally, a lot of this has to do with the story and the media. We want to make it so that the fossil fuel industry, as they said, we know that we can't bankrupt them, but we can show that they're morally bankrupt. We can take away the social license that we give them to operate when we invest our dollars in them and let them sponsor our arts institutions or dare I say, our UN climate negotiations. We need to turn big oil into big tobacco, an industry that's a pariah industry that can't be seen standing next to politicians that people don't want to take money from. That's the goal. And I think that we're beginning to make that case in strong ways, and we hope to make it more over the days to come. Finally, how does divestment sort of play out here at the UNFCCC, and what are the connections that are happening here? A lot of our goal, of course, is to build a lot of political pressure on this process and on the industries that are holding progress back, but there's some interesting connections inside the negotiations themselves. First, of course, is the finance issue. There has been a role laid out for private finance to help with mitigation and adaptation measures. As these large pension funds especially begin to move in a different direction and hopefully move their investments out of fossil fuels, it's our goal that they also reinvest that money into the type of companies, programs, loans that can really begin to tackle this crisis. That discussion is very much underway. Some of Norway's, Sweden's largest pension funds are considering coal divestment right now and arguing that money should be reinvested towards a more sustainable future. That hopefully can help not only provide actual dollars and euros, but also put pressure on governments to begin to step up their own commitments around finance. Finally, that attack on the industry is really important, that social license issue. You all have probably seen the bean bags out in the hallway, sponsored by Emirates, the nice BMW parked out front, the fact that a steel company that has the emissions of the Czech Republic, I believe, and has lobbied strongly against EU regulations as a sponsor of these meetings, that can't happen in the future, and it shouldn't be happening here in Poland. The fact that the Polish presidency is putting on a World Summit with the World Coal Association should be an outrage. It is an outrage, I think, to many of us here. The industry should not have a seat at this table when they're trying to burn the table down. These are not companies that are looking to have a dialogue with us. They're spending tens of millions of dollars lobbying against regulations, spreading misinformation, and trying to take out any politicians that look to do the right thing. I think we need to recognize it, that they've declared us as an enemy. Their business plan runs contrary to a healthy planet, and they're spending millions to fight us on this. We need to start fighting them back a little bit more and stop pretending like they're here to work with us. Finally, it's been really interesting to see some discussion beginning to spread that perhaps there are ways to actually get after the corporate influence here at the negotiations. Looking at the precedent underneath the World Health Organization, where I believe Article 5.3 started to ban tobacco industry lobbyists from taking part in any meetings where they were discussing tobacco regulations. I would argue that something similar could perhaps take place under the UNFCCC to begin to think about how we start putting in more of a firewall between this process and a type of corporate actors that are looking to block progress. So hopefully we'll see more discussion of that going forward. This campaign will continue to grow. I think that it's incredibly exciting to see how students have taken this up, are leading this effort, how partner organizations have come on board. It's been amazing to work with a growing coalition of groups. And I would say watch out. Keep an eye on your universities if you went to one to see if they're involved in this sort of work. Get involved as alumni if you can. Continue to push institutions that you're a part of. These are the types of campaigns that can begin to make an impact and begin to build the political will that we need. So tremendous thanks to this panel of people that are on the ground actually trying to implement the changes that we're trying to create more space for, and of course to Mark and all the work that Carbon Tracker has done their analysis helped us begin to see this issue in a new light, and it's been the bedrock of the work that we've been doing. We hope that we will continue to cause trouble with it wherever we can. Thanks.